Welcome to our brand new series where you get to decide the top 10s in British history. This week we turn to our fantastic Facebook community to vote for the top 10 battles in British history fought on British soil. And as always, they delivered. So grab your shields and swords and let's dive into the most iconic battles fought right here on British soil. In at number 10, the Battle of Stanford Bridge in 1066. Stanford Bridge may often be overshadowed by Hastings, but don't let that fool you. This battle was a game changer. In September 1066, Harald Hardrada, King of Norway, arrived with 300 ships and 11,000 Vikings, ready to claim the English throne. But Harold Godwinson wasn't having it. Marching 185 miles in just 4 days, Harold caught the Vikings completely off guard. The battle was over quickly. Hardrada was killed, marking the end of the Viking Age in Britain. But just days later, Harold was faced with another invasion, this time from William of Normandy. Number 9. The Battle of Watling Street, 61 AD. This was a brutal showdown between Boudicca's Britons and the Romans. After the Romans wronged Boudicca and her daughters, she led a fierce rebellion torching cities like Colchester and London. But the Romans weren't backing down. Suetonius Paulinus, with just 11,000 troops, lured Boudicca into a tight spot along Watling Street, where her army was crushed by Roman javelins and disciplined counterattacks. The battle marked the swift end of the rebellion, and Boudicca took her life soon after. Roman rule in Britain endured for another 350 years. Number 8. The Battle of Britain, 1940. After France fell, Hitler set his sights on Britain, launching a bombing campaign aimed at crippling the RAF and paving the way for invasion. But British pilots weren't about to give up without a fight. Outnumbered and outgunned, they fought back with Spitfires and Hurricanes, using radar and their quick thinking to turn the tide. By September, the Luftwaffe had failed, marking a major turning point in the war. Winston Churchill summed it up perfectly. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Number 7. The Battle of Edge Hill in 1642. The Battle of Edge Hill was the first major clash of the English Civil War. Bloody, intense, and inconclusive. King Charles I marched towards London only to be intercepted by parliamentarian forces led by the Earl of Essex at Edgehill. Despite heavy losses on both sides, neither gained a decisive victory. The battle ended in a stalemate, but it became famous for the eerie, ghostly reenactments seen by locals in the years that followed. Even the Royal Commissions witnessed apparitions, including one of Sir Edmund Verney, the King's standard-bearer. This investigation by the Royal Commission led to the Edgehill Ghost being officially recognised by the Public Records Office, the only British phantoms to have that distinction. Number 6. The Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. The Battle of Bannockburn was a turning point in the Scottish War of Independence. Robert the Bruce, having driven the English out of Scotland, faced off against King Edward II's forces in a bid to relieve Stirling Castle. Bruce's strategic position near Bannockburn and his clever defences overwhelmed the English cavalry. The victory solidified Robert the Bruce's claim to the throne and set Scotland on a path to independence. Number 5. The Battle of Naseby in 1645. The Battle of Naseby marked the beginning of the end for King Charles I. The parliamentarian New Model Army, with 14,000 troops, faced off against the Royalists, who were just 9,000 strong. What started as a fierce battle turned into a decisive defeat for the Royalists, as the parliamentarians broke through and wiped out the last of the resistance. The Royalist cause was shattered, and the Parliament's victory was within reach. Number 4. The Battle of Culloden in 1746. The Battle of Culloden was fought near Inverness and was the last pitched battle on British soil. It ended the 1745 Jacobite Rising, an attempt to restore the Stuart monarchy. Led by Charles Edward Stuart, the Young Pretender, the Jacobites faced the well-equipped army of the Duke of Cumberland, son of King George II. After their retreat to Scotland, Charles chose to confront the government forces at Culloden, despite warnings about the boggy terrain and advice to adopt guerrilla tactics. Cumberland's artillery pounded the Jacobite lines before the Highlanders charged, but the government forces' bayonet tactic proved devastating. The battle lasted less than an hour, with the Jacobites destroyed. Those who survived were hunted down, and Charles escaped to France after 5 months in hiding, marking the end of the Jacobite cause. Number 3. The Battle of Towton in 1461. The Battle of Towton is thought to be the largest and bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil. It was part of the Wars of the Roses, where the rival Yorkist and Lancastrian factions clashed over the throne. After the death of his father, 18-year-old Edward, Duke of York, led his army north against Henry VI's forces. The two armies met in a snowstorm near Towton, with the Yorkists ultimately breaking the Lancastrian line. The battle, which lasted for hours, ended in a decisive Yorkist victory with around 28,000 dead. The Lancastrians couldn't regroup for 3 years, though the war would continue for another 25 years. Surprisingly, in it too is the most famous battle in British history, the Battle of Hastings in 1066. The Battle of Hastings, fought on the 14th of October 1066, was a fight for the English crown between Harold Godwinson and William, Duke of Normandy. Harold's Saxon army, exhausted from their recent victory at Stanford Bridge, took up position on Senlac Hill. William's forces, including cavalry and infantry, attacked relentlessly. After hours of fighting, the Saxon shield wall began to break. In the chaos, Harold was struck in the eye by an arrow and killed. Alternatively, he could have been lanced and killed by 4 knights, but either way, he was killed, and this led to the collapse of the Saxon forces. William's victory changed the course of English history, establishing Norman rule. Before we get to number 1, we have a couple of honourable mentions that didn't quite make the top 10, but were still voted for by our amazing community, and we just had to give them a quick shout out. As we run through these, why not take a guess at which battle you think takes our top spot? Drop your guesses in the comments below. Now for the honourable mentions. The Battle of Cable Street in 1936. Anti-fascist protesters clashed with Oswald Mosley's British Union of Fascists, successfully blocking their march through East London. Battle of Brunanburn, 937. King Athelstan's victory over Scottish Viking alliances secured English dominance over the British Isles. The Battle of Mansfield in 642. King Oswald of Northumbria was defeated and killed by Penda of Mercia, marking a brutal shift in Anglo-Saxon power. The Battle of Bosworth ended the Wars of the Roses and began the Tudor dynasty. In August 1485, Henry Tudor, with a force of 2,000 men, landed in Wales and marched through the countryside, swelling his ranks to over 5,000. Hearing of his arrival, King Richard III gathered a Yorkist army of nearly 10,000 men at Bosworth, Leicestershire. The battle was fiercely contested, but during the clash, Richard led a charge directly at Henry. In a twist of fate, Henry's stepfather, Thomas Stanley, who had been supporting Richard with 6,000 men, chose not to engage, leaving Richard vulnerable. The Yorkist king was killed and Henry Tudor claimed victory, marking the end of the Wars of the Roses and the start of the Tudor dynasty. And there you have it, the top 10 battles fought on British soil. But which one surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Want to be involved in voting for the next top 10? Check out the link in the description and join us on Facebook.